Good afternoon, everybody. PA Figs here. So it is time to start planting some seeds. And these are the seeds that I'm at least going to start with today. I have a bunch stored in the garage that I'll probably go get too. But on the left are some cucumbers. I like to get some cucumbers started in the greenhouse. They actually grow pretty well in the greenhouse up until it gets too hot. And it gives us some, little snacks to have here in the early spring. And then my wife Teresa has asked for some forget-me-nots. So I'll probably put those direct seeded into a small pot. I'll have to dig around here and see what I can find. And then some celosia, Chief Red Flame. Haven't grown this before, but it looked pretty interesting. So I figured I will give it a shot as well. It says within 2 weeks after your average last frost date. So warm weather, so I'll have to keep it in the greenhouse for a while. Not sure how fast it grows, but plenty of time here in the greenhouse. So I've got some seed starting mix. I actually got this from a local nursery. It's not something you normally see at a Home Depot or wherever, so I'm gonna give it a try. I haven't really looked at it. Let's see. It looks like it's primarily peat moss with some perlite. I do like how small grains the perlite and stuff is in there. Looks like it's a little vermiculite mixed in. Sometimes some of the mixes you get are chunky, and with some of the smaller seeds, it can be a little bit of a problem. So, alright, let me go ahead and get stuff ready. I think I'm going to start with this tray here. I'm not sure how many of those celosia seeds I have. The cucumbers I probably won't do in the same tray. I'll see if I have a smaller one for them. And like I said, the forget-me-nots I'm going to direct sow. So let's go ahead and fill up this tray. Okay, so I think the first thing I'm going to do is take some of the seed mix and put it into a bucket here so I can pre-moisten it. I don't have my stand for my phone, so I'm going to have to pause this while I do it. Okay, so I popped a bunch into my bucket here. And I'm just going to give it a little bit of water to moisten it up. I don't like to do this in the bag itself, because if the bag itself stays moist with water in it, what I find tends to happen is I get fungus gnats in that soil, and they'll replicate or reproduce pretty quickly. So let me go ahead and mix this up. Just lay that in there. I just want to get this to a decent dampness. I need a lot more water. I don't want it to be so dry that it crumbles like this. I don't want it to be so wet that when I squeeze it, it drips. I want it just in between, so I need a little bit more water. Okay, this looks about right. If anything, it might be a little bit over wet, but that's okay. The mix will dry out pretty quickly here in the greenhouse, which is another problem I have, keeping it moist. But you can see it doesn't really fall apart anymore, and it's a little bit too wet because when I squeeze it, ideally, I wouldn't have water come out. But that's okay. It'll dry out pretty quick. It's actually easier for me if it's a little bit over wet than if it's too dry. If it's too dry, you tend to get air pockets, and the seed may not make full contact with the soil. Alright, let's go ahead and fill up the trays. Okay, so here's one of the trays filled. And what I wanted to show you is, I'll actually fill the trays to the top, like here. And I don't want it too compacted, but I do want to avoid air pockets, so I will come by and just give it a little press like this and get it packed down. I don't want to pack it real hard, but I don't want air bubbles either, so that's pretty good. I'm not too worried if the soil's not all the way to the surface. And there we go. It's ready for some seeds. Okay, so looking at the package of the celosia, it looks like it wants to be either surface or pretty shallow. So I'm just going to put it on the surface here. And seeds, I'm guessing, are very small in this because it's coming in this little tiny package. So let me go ahead and carefully open this. Okay, as you can see, these seeds are beyond tiny. Absolutely incredibly small. So I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do this while I film, but let's try it. All I want to do is put 2 or 3 seeds per cell here. There's 1, 2, I'm going to put 3 in. 3. Same thing up here. 1, 2, 3. And I just lost count there, but get it close. It's not going to matter if you're off by a ton. Alright, there's that bottom tray. There's only a few seeds left, so I think I'm just going to actually overseed some of these other ones. Oh, that may have been it. Oh, there's one more in there. That's it. Alright, so that is my celosia. I do have to make a tag for it now. Let me see if I can find some tags. Alright, so I don't have my tags out here, so I'll have to tag it later. For now, I'll put the seed packet in there so that I can remember it's there. Let me go ahead and just water these in quick. I'm not going to cover them because of how small they are. And that's it. I'll get a cover, a clear plastic dome to put on here to keep the humidity in. And I'm going to move on to some of the next stuff. Alright, so now for the forget-me-nots. I've got this self-watering container that had a fig tree air layer in it that didn't make it. I'm not exactly sure why, but you can see it still has some of the roots. The tree just didn't take off. But I'm going to try to reuse this mix. So I went in here and kind of chopped that up. It still has the roots in there, but they'll break down, I think. And now what I'm going to do is just to revitalize this, I'm going to take a little bit of fertilizer. And I just want to mix that fertilizer in. Just to revitalize the soil a little bit. I don't see why the soil would not be any good. Okay, let me get some of the roots out here just because they're unsightly. And I'm going to get some seed starter mix and put that on there. Okay, so now I'm going to take some of my seed starter mix, put it on top. I want to give those seeds a good foundation to start on. I don't need to fill the pot. It's always good to leave a little space at the top of your pots. That way when you water, you're not knocking all the soil out of the pot. And I'll go ahead and water that in real quick. I'm pre-watering this in just because I didn't water the old soil that's under the seed starting mix. So I just want to get it moist as well so it doesn't suck all the water out of the seed starting mix down into the soil, the potting mix below it. So this will water it in nicely. If I had to guess, these forget-me-not seeds are going to be very small. So again, I'm not going to cover them. So I want to make sure to get this all watered in pretty well, because if I water it too heavily with the seeds on top, it'll bury the seeds, and it may put them too deep. A light watering should be fine, and I'll do that after I plant them, but let's get this nice and watered. Okay, great. Okay, surprisingly, the seeds, they're small, but not terrible. And it actually says to cover them with an 1/8 inch of fine soil, so just a sprinkling, basically. I do like how it says to plant them 4 inches apart. And in this case, I'm not going to be real precise because I'm basically just using this entire seed package in this pot. So, I'm not too worried if I get overcrowding or, you know, more plants per square foot than is recommended, because it'll pretty much self-thin for this pot. And I'm not going to have any other plants in here. And I can, you know, thin it myself too as they come up if I get a ton of them. Max size is 12 inches height and 8 inches space. So, I mean, theoretically you wouldn't really want more than 3 or 4 in here. But, I don't know. We'll see how it does. I got that in. So that's a whole package. And now all I'm going to do is water them in. And then per the directions, I'm going to get a little bit of soil, a little bit of seed starter mix. In this case, I'm actually going to use the dry seed starting mix so I get a finer layer. It's a lot easier to sprinkle it. So let me get some of that. Okay, so in an attempt to achieve an 1/8 inch, I'm just going to take this and just lightly sprinkle it over like this. Not real thick, just a bit of a sprinkle. That's it. Now I'll take my water and water that in as well. Alright, now this is a self-watering pot, But in order to get those seeds, to keep them moist, I will still cover this. I had a little tray over here. I don't think this is quite going to work. I'll probably have to go get some saran wrap. Put some saran wrap over. It's almost the right size. It might do in a pinch, but I'll probably get some saran wrap, put some saran wrap in. And I will keep... Where's the opening? I will keep the self-watering pot filled from the bottom, but I do have to be careful that the top doesn't dry out, because that self-watering will keep the soil mass moist, but the surface on the self-waterings do tend to dry out, so I may have to water the surface, every couple of days, depending on how much humidity escapes once I put saran wrap on here. And I do have to find my labels so that I can label these things so I don't forget what's in each one. Alright, let's move on. Okay, so I needed to get a little bit of potting mix in order to fill up some of the containers that I'm going to use, that I'm going to pot seeds directly into. And this is a potting mix I highly recommend. It's Pro Mix HP. HP stands for high porosity. It's got more perlite in it than what most soil mixes do. So you can see it's chunky. It provides good aeration. I like using it. It's about $40 for this great big bale, if you can find it. I've got a nursery in Agway, local, that sells it. Great stuff. So let me go ahead and fill a bucket to bring to the greenhouse. Okay, so I've got my bucket about half full. It's just a lot easier. That bale is compressed, so it probably weighs a good 50 pounds. So this is just an easier way to transport it to the greenhouse. Okay, so some of you may remember this pot here that I made, I think it was last summer, with the cheap self-watering insert that I had found at, I think it was Walmart, or no, it was Lowe's or Home Depot, one of the two. I never actually got a chance to use it, so I figured now was kind of a good time. I had some potting mix in there already, some scrap wood chips I had laying around, just tossed in there for filler, and then again I laid in some of the fertilizer just to revitalize. Now I'm going to use this Pro Mix that I had in the garage, and I'm just going to use that to fill in while still leaving enough space on top to put some seed starting mix for the cucumber seeds. So let me go ahead and get this filled up. Okay, I've got the Pro Mix up to where I want it. I'm just going to water this in a little bit. It's almost like a lasagna I'm making here. The old potting mix with some filler, the new potting mix, and then I'm going to put in some seed starter as well for the cucumbers to get a good start into. Alright, let me go ahead and put the seed starter in now. I wasn't paying attention there, and I did get a little bit lazy, and I grabbed it straight from the bag, forgetting that I had pre-moistened some in a bucket already, but that's okay. I will just moisten this now. Cucumbers, as many of you have grown them probably, are very forgiving, so I'm not too worried about much of anything with them. I want to water this in real good, as I'm sure the Pro Mix underneath it still uses some more water as well, so I don't want the top layer to dry out too quickly. Okay, let's get our cucumber seeds. So these are our cucumber seeds. The variety is Market More, and I can never remember what we plant from year to year variety-wise, so I usually just kind of grab something that looks good at the whatever store I'm at getting seeds at the time. If you have your favorite type of cucumber, by all means let me know. If you have some family heirlooms that you'd like to share, definitely be interested in giving them a try, so get in touch with me. But yeah, 1/2 inch, we want to plant these. Let me see if I can get a couple out. That's a lot more than a couple, but that's okay. So 1/2 inch, all I'm going to do is drop a seed, push it in. Drop a seed, push it in. Drop a lot of seeds apparently. I'm just going to put a bunch in here. What I'm going to do with this pot is I'm actually going to leave it in the greenhouse through the summer. And what I've done in the past is I've had the cucumber vine grow up to the roof line here and grow all along the trellis, and then you get the cucumbers hanging down. For the most part, it gets a little too hot in here in the summer, but up until I would say late June, they do pretty darn well. So, and this should be plenty of seeds. I'm overseeding. I can trim as needed. I'll usually take the strongest 2 vines. Seeds are just so cheap, I'm not too worried about it. And plus I spilled more into my hand than I meant to. So, don't really know what to do with them. I guess I'll put them back in the packet here, but should be plenty to last, or plenty already in here. More than enough. Like I said, I only need 2-3 vines to grow out of here, so that should be pretty good. Let me put the rest of these seeds back. Alright, so now that I've got those seeds down where I want them, and again, I'm using the wrong unmoistened seed starter mix, but oh well. I'm just going to cover up the indentations I made. That'll put those seeds down about 1/2 inch. I don't think it really is critical to get it just right. I mean, if you're a person that uses a ruler, so be it. But for me, part of the fun of gardening is not having to be accurate. Okay, so I've got that mix in. Let me just water it all in. And then I'll do the same thing when I get the saran wrap. I will cover this to keep the humidity in. And I will keep everything that I'm starting today on this heat mat here. You can see my controllers and my mess of wires over there. And I'll keep the mat probably 65, just to get a little bit of warmth, maybe even a little bit higher actually. We'll see. I think it's set at 65 or 68 right now, but that was because the greenhouse was struggling to stay above 50 for a while we had some colder weather. We're still getting a little bit of colder weather, so what I don't want to have happen is that heat mat stay on thinking it's colder than it is, and basically baking these pots. Now the bigger pots I shouldn't have to worry about, but the smaller seed trays, those I do. Alright, so I got that watered in, and should be all set. Just need to get some saran wrap, and I'll put saran wrap over these guys. Okay, so I've got the rest of the trays filled in, and it's very important when you put a tray like this to fill all of the cells. You don't want to fill just like that 1 6-pack like I had before and leave the rest of them blank, because there'll be too much airflow and it'll dry out your mix real quick. So even if you're not going to plant anything, it's important for you to fill those other ones up just to keep a good humidity in the bin. So over here I've got our little seed collection, and I'm trying to figure out what to fill the rest of that in with. And I'm just not sure. So I wanted to plant some baby's breath. We do have a bunch of roses. I wanted some baby's breath to go with it. Just not sure. Yeah, this wants you to sow them directly outside. Although I did think about growing some in the greenhouse and just leaving it in the greenhouse. We'll see. I am going to plant some sugar peas. Alyssum is always a good thing to plant. I do like alyssum. A couple different colors of it there. I'll leave that out. Some sprouts, bee balm, snap peas, alfalfa, lettuce. Lobelia is always a great plant. Sunflowers are a bit early, and I might just direct sow those because they always seem to struggle with replant. Basil, it's a little too early for basil. Lettuce, probably would be okay to grow some lettuce in the greenhouse. Beets, sunflowers, squash, cucumbers. What do we have here? Some salvia. This looks like basil, thyme, a shade garden mix. Hudson Valley Seed Library. So I did grow up in New York in the Hudson Valley. That's where these came from. Let's see, what's in here? Chinese forget-me-nots, Chinese houses, baby blue eyes, 5-spot, and larkspur. I think I planted some of these last year. I don't remember if it was the forget-me-nots or the Chinese houses, but the seed pods got stuck in Fisher, our dog's fur, like crazy. So I'm not sure I'm going to plant those. Let's see. Sunflowers, good bug blooms. What's in here? Zinnias, cosmos, cornflower, alyssum, more. Direct sow. Okay. Poppies. Planted a bunch of those last year. Marjoram, good bug blooms. Okay. I'm not sure. I know I want to get some zinnias. But I think I have a particular color in mind. Oh, I'm not sure if I pronounced this right, but nasturtium. They're very neat and edible flowers. We've eaten them. They're very peppery. They're actually pretty good as well. Let's see what else we have. Pickling cucumbers. I don't really care for pickles. Teresa loves them, but maybe. Basil. Chives. I've got some chives out front. Kale. Shade garden mix. Let's see. Beets. Zucchini. Carrots. Definitely have to direct sow. I've tried them in the greenhouse without much luck. Snapdragons. Oh, that's perfect. And then what else do I have in here? Just so I can look. Spinach. I do have to get some spinach started. And then I have a whole box full of zinnia seeds that we collected off of our zinnias in the past. So I might start some of those, although I want to get some giant purple zinnias. I saw them on a video the other day, and it looked like they'd be great in our garden. But snapdragons, I haven't grown snapdragons in a long time, and I love snapdragons. Let's give these a shot. And of course, to go with the snapdragons, a little bit of liquid refreshment. If you guys enjoy your cocktails, this is something that we saw on our cruise that we took a while ago, called a quick fix. And it's got absinthe, a melon liqueur, rum, vodka, and some gin, and some Sprite. It's almost like a Long Island iced tea. A little bit more fruity, though. But pretty good and packs a punch. So I did want to show you what a cute seed packet this is. So you can see this is Snapdragon Mix. Start indoors. Not too much on that display. 250 seeds. 90 days to bloom. And then when you open it inside, it's just a very pretty package. And then you've got how far apart you should do them. 3 to 5 seeds per pot. Slightly pressing them into the soil to keep them from washing away. Once sprouted, thin out. 1 per pot. Transplant outdoors in fertile, well-drained soil. It's nice that they give you that much information. Because even as much as I garden and play with things, it can be kind of frustrating sometimes when you get seeds that you haven't planted before and you have no idea how to do it. But, wow. Nice job, Hudson Valley Seed Library. That's just a gorgeous presentation. Not sure where you can get these locally. I believe I had gotten these up in New York when I was visiting family. But if you ever get a chance to support them, it's well worthwhile because just a beautiful presentation that adds to the experience. Alright, let's get these planted. So the seeds are not huge. Oh, they always make it sound so easy when they say to put just 2 or 3 in. And these seeds are a bit older. I've had these for a couple of years. But let's give them a try. And I'm guessing this is just a kaleidoscope of colors. I'm trying to get at least close to a couple per. Let's do these over here. Oops, sorry. I'm paying attention so much to the seeds that I'm not paying attention to what I'm filming. I'm filming the floor. My apologies. How many seeds do I have left? Quite a few. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and plant quite a few of these. Who doesn't like snapdragons? Is it just me, or even as an adult, do you still like to pretend like you're making them talk? And if you don't know what I mean, tell me, and I'll have to show you when we get some flowering. I'd like to say you'll be amazed, but you'll probably just think I'm crazy. I wonder if I can fill this whole tray. And I'll go back after I do this and press them into the soil a little bit. I'm having trouble even seeing these seeds go, but pretty sure I'm getting at least some in each cell here. And I know it says to thin them, but I can tell you what I've done in the past is if I have a cell that doesn't actually germinate, I will take one of the seedlings that I'm going to pinch, normally I pinch them to get rid of them, and I will move it into that cell. I'll dig it up, pull it out, and if it survives, it survives. Ugh, I see all the seeds stuck in there. If it survives, great. If it doesn't, then I wasn't going to have anything in that cell anyway, so not a big deal. Some of these seeds are sticking to the sticky stuff they use to close the seed tray. Alright. So those snapdragons are planted. And I'm going to go through with my finger, just tap them down. And then when you water them in, it should complete the contact. Because what you want is those seeds to have contact with soil. If they don't have contact with soil, they may not germinate. So let's just go through here real quick. Tap these all down. I can feel some of the seeds on my finger sticking, but hopefully it's not a ton of them. And even if it is, they should fall off into one of these other cells here. And then I'm not going to cover these with any additional soil mix, but I am going to quickly sprinkle some water on them to water it in. And really all that's doing is keeping the soil moist, as well as trying to get as much contact between the soil and that seed to allow for successful germination. Okay. Let's go ahead and... Oop, I gotta adjust my faucet. 1 second. Alright, I really need to get a new watering head, or watering wand. This one here is stuck in the on position, so it makes things a little bit sloppy. But just gonna water those in. That's it. I get some saran wrap. Oh, labels. I did find some labels. Let me label these before I forget. Okay, so I've got my 2 labels in for the 6-pack of celosia that I planted. And I like to label how many cells there are. And then the snapdragons for the rest of it. So now I'm just going to cover these up. I'm just going to leave that seed package in there, but they get destroyed pretty quickly anyway. And I'm just going to cover this up, and there we go. Leave it on the heat mat, and that should be good to go now until the seeds germinate. Once they germinate and start putting out some green, I'll get them off of the heat mat and put them onto my rack, and we'll be good to go. Okay, we've got one more tray here ready to go. I'm going to start planting some Alyssum Rosie O'Day. It's a pink Alyssum I've used before. And it's actually a perennial in my zone, but it does say it'll get leggy. I know we do have, I don't know, out of the maybe 50 we planted last year, maybe 5 came back at the most. And they don't come back real strong, so you're better off just replanting it each year. It grows pretty well from seed. So let's see if we can... These seeds are really tiny. So let's see what I can do here. This is another one where you just get them in there and then press in, water in. Alyssum is one of my favorite things to grow because it is, I mean, it's just super, super easy. It's got a very good germination rate and doesn't need any specifically strenuous care. I would say last year, now these seeds are, a couple years old, so we'll see, but last year I probably had a, 90% germination rate. I mean, this stuff really does do well from seed, and it doesn't need a ton of water, a ton of care in the greenhouse. It really just is a very good beginner seed to plant. I know I did have a couple of packs of it last year that I don't know if the seed was old or what exactly happened, but I had I think just one tray where the germination rate was dismal. It was like 10%, and I went out and bought another pack of seeds, planted those seeds over top of the original ones, and then it was like all of the seeds then germinated and came up. So I may not have had the temperature right. There may have been some other factor where once it warmed up enough in the following weeks, all the seeds germinated. But it was only that one pack, that one cell, or one tray of cells, so it was very strange. But I do like the smell of Alyssum. If you're prone to allergies or don't care for the smell of certain flowers, it's something to consider because these are somewhat fragrant. For me personally, the more fragrance, the better. I don't know about you guys, but when I walk into a florist or anywhere that I see roses, I grew up with roses my entire life. I still grow them. When I smell a rose and it has little to no fragrance, it drives me crazy. It's almost, like you take half of what a rose is about away from it. And I've got some roses that are not super fragrant, but I really concentrate on growing primarily roses that have a fragrance to them. And my all-time favorite rose is a Double Delight. Double Delight rose, if you've never grown it, it's a pretty pink and white rose. It's not gonna, be the type of rose that you maybe give in a bouquet to somebody, but it has the sweetest fragrance that I just love. Alright, getting these all done. I'm just overseeding now, not being real careful, and we're good. So there's my Rosie O'Day. I'm just going to go and press them in real quick. I'm not even sure if you need to press these in. Most small seeds, once you water, they're either going to splash out of your trays or make contact with the soil. But it's a habit. It's one of those things, don't break the process if it works for you. It might be superstition, might be some benefit to it, and until you know if it works, why stop it? Okay, so those are all pressed in. Try to get some of the ones that stuck to my finger off. And now, just going to give them a quick watering in. Okay. I've got a top for them, a little mini greenhouse within the greenhouse. And these tops are really just, it's not for warmth, it's just to keep the humidity in. They're not real tight, so they still get air. Do want to air them out every day, a couple times a day if possible. I'll make a label, put the label in here, and we're good to go. Okay, so here is my absolute favorite for the garden, sugar snap peas. I've got 3 varieties here. I think this one was my favorite, Super Sugar Snap. If I remember correctly, at least. It was either this one or this one. This one is Sugar Sprint. And I can't remember, but I think this one was. I love sugar snap peas. Problem is, I have problems growing them here. They seem to grow pretty well, and it depends on the spring. They grow well up until it gets too warm, and then they just really struggle. So it says, keep them in full sun. That one doesn't really say, but this guy here says plant from March 15th to May 1st. I thought I saw, full sun. And they just don't seem to thrive here once it gets warm. So if our spring is late, I direct sowed them last year, and they came up, but then they just fizzled right out. I think I got barely any peas out of them. And the greenhouse is the same thing. They do really well up until it gets hot, and then they die off. So 66 days, that's 2 months basically, a little over 2 months. So here that would be mid-March, mid-April. So I think what I'm going to do is plant them in here, and hopefully by the time it's good enough of a temperature to plant them outside, they'll have grown up this and I can transplant them. I don't remember them transplanting real well, but I've got enough seeds. I might just plant a whole bunch outside. Of course, now I'm looking at this, and I just noticed, danger, treated with Captain Chloriphosis and Mefenoxam at manufacturer's recommended rate. Do not use seed for food, feed, or oil. Well, holy shit, that's great. I've been eating these for I don't know how many years. Why the heck would they sell this at, I guess I found it at a more of a like an Agway type of thing, but geez, I guess I should have actually read the directions, huh? My wife's right. Not reading the directions might kill me. Okay, we're going to throw those out. Let's just make sure that this doesn't have the same warning anywhere. Alright, I don't see anything in this bag, so these are good to use. I wonder where the heck I got this from. I want to say I got it from Agway. Well, that's kind of scary. Alright, well, we're going to plant these guys instead here, so let's see, it says 1 to 2 inches deep, 2 inches apart. So I'm going to overseed this again. I can always reduce and thin the plants as I need. Let's see if I can reach in here with this going. And these are coated just like the other ones are. But does anything say? It says edible. It's kind of got me a little bit worried now. Where'd that other bag go? Does this say edible? It doesn't say much of anything. Eaten like garden beans. What am I missing? I'm going to have to Google this. If folks watching the video know, Captain Chlorophos, and Mefenoxam, if you guys know what that is, please let me know, because I'm a little bit curious about that. Alright, anyway, before I die, I better plant these. So 1 to 2 inches deep. Just going to pop them in like this. Oops. Dropping seeds everywhere. Alright. Well, it's fine. So, overseeded a little bit, because I dropped several here. But that should be enough to where if I get even half of those, I'll be good. And the germination rate on these, with those coated seeds, are usually, 90% or higher. So, I think we'll be fine. So, I'll go ahead and water those in. And we should be good to go. Okay guys, I figured it out. I had a moment to stop and think. It's just saying not to eat the seed peas as food, because they're coated. But once you plant them and they grow, they're fine. Okay, panic attack over. Alright, so my phone is about to die, but the last thing I'm trying to do here is I want to take some cuttings of this Sensation petunia I have in here, and try to take these cuttings and get them to grow by dipping them in some root hormone and putting them in there. This is the rooting hormone I use, and what I'll do is I'll just take a piece of petunia, cut it off, and I'll dip it in here, and then I'll put the end into the tray over there, and then I'll cover it. Okay, we've got our petunia cuttings in there, about 32 of them, and we'll see how they do over the next, if I had to guess, it's going to take at least 4 to 6 weeks probably for them to really take off. But we will see. Alright. Spring is in the air. Seeds have started. And I'm looking forward to it. Hope everybody is getting ready for spring as well. I'm PA Figs. Take care.